to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom. And in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines. Selah. Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of special, I love it, special message from the Ancient Ones. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms. You know, one of the questions that I've been meditating on ever since I started kind of, we call it channeling, downloading the Ancient Ones and just communing with them, is why did Africa fall? Why did Zion fall? Why did Eden fall? Why is there this massive, kind of break in our memory? Like, what really happened? What caused it? And, it all goes back, beloved, to the division amongst ourselves. You see, someone can only do to you what you have already done to yourself, or you are doing to yourself, or you're allowing to happen to yourself. And we opened that window because we had, when this magnificent melanated planet was created, there were so many jewels, there were so many wonderful things. And then imagine you're coming from the water nation and you're seeing all the magnificence of the fire nations, all the magnificence of the earth nations, all the magnificence of the air nations, and even your own water nations that, that are kingdoms that are different from you. So it was just that much of an experience where there were so many different treasures and wonderful, things and experiences and powers to experience, to witness, etc., etc. But as I always say, there was a spirit of division that came in, as spirits would come in to this human experience and build massive empires. Different kings would come from the different water nations, let's say, or the different fire nations, and establish their kingdoms. Different queens would come, different mothers would come from different kingdoms, and they would establish their nations. And, eventually these nations started clashing because one nation wanted to be greater than the other nation. And, because we were already from different places. And so because of the wars that we had, amongst ourselves, beloveds, it opened up a window for an enemy to penetrate. And you can say, and there's a lot of theories of where the Mzungus came from. Some people say they were created by our, highest level wizards in a lab for various reasons. Others say they came from the Caucasus Mountains. But the thing is, the reason this was allowed to happen, beloveds, is because the Ancient Ones thought if we faced such a huge common enemy, surely we would put our differences aside. Surely we would put this little competition thing of, my kingdom is bigger than yours, and my kingdom's going to raid yours, and we're going to have all these wars, and we're going to be competing for territory when there's so much. Surely, when we faced a common foreign enemy, we would come together. But, and that's why this was allowed to happen. Because it has always been that our unity is, our liberation is through our unity. Although now we've reached such a point, a turning point where it's no longer about that. Now it's like literally every man for himself, and you have to prove yourselves worthy, to the architects of this world to continue to move into the golden age. That's basically where we're finding ourselves now, because it's, maybe because we're a procrastinating people, maybe we'll unite in the final hour. But you've seen how hard it is to have unity amongst us. And that's because, increasingly we've even become disunited within ourselves. And so that's the thing we have to realize, this thing of tribalism, beloveds. And I hate to use the word tribalism because it was something that was imposed on us on purpose by the Babylon system. It's one of the pillars of the indoctrination process under education. And it was like reduce us from nations and kingdoms with social orders, laws, all kinds of social systems, royalty, etc. Reduce us from that high level of kings and queens and emperors and empresses to tribes. And tribes is literally like a gathering of barbaric people in the forest, like a small gathering of people coming together. If you look at the meaning of tribe, it's really reduced. And so because now we see ourselves as tribes, we can't respect the fact that we came from nations. And maybe it's different in West Africa, but I'm talking really about the reality here in East Africa as well, where we can't even connect to the fact that, like here in Kenya, I don't know if any king or queen that's currently living. Let me know in the comments if there is one. But obviously they're not, highly regarded, if I can put that. But that's what happened, beloveds, is that they managed, that division in us led to the point where we were conquered by a much more inferior enemy, a much more inferior enemy. And because of the nature of the wars, because the wars were deadly. I mean, we see our brothers and sisters were sent into slavery because they were prisoners of war. And we can argue about, black people didn't, treat the prisoners. They didn't think that slavery would be that bad. Or you could, there's many things you can argue, but the fact is that our brothers and sisters were involved. People that looked like you and me were involved in helping to sell their own kin to slavery. And you see, the thing is, this continues to bring the division, beloveds. This continues to bring that disunity and that breaking among us, because our liberation is in our unity. But so much has been done, and then we don't know our history. So now there's a lot of, because we are our ancestors, beloveds. We carry their memories, and their memories are supposed to help us in this life. And so there's so much where, we carry all these resentments and animosities, and they did us wrong and we did them wrong. All these things that are on a subconscious level playing out, that kind of play out in our politics. And of course, Babylon, when they carved out Africa, it wasn't by accident. Those lines are not by accident, beloveds. They made sure that they divided nations in two, like the Maasai. I've talked about that before, and then they made sure that they put two completely different nations that didn't get along, like the Hutu and Tutsi, who are totally different. They put them and they put them in one nation. So they made sure they really mashed up our nations, beloveds. It was not just done randomly, so that this kind of tension would continue, because they know as long as we remain divided, then our power is scattered and there's nothing we can do to liberate ourselves, and their little show can go on. And I see it in today, because now, all of us have there's so many ancestors' voices that we're carrying. But I see it even on an individual level, when the way we love to argue and debate with one another. You know what I mean? It's just like we always have a point to say, beloveds. And I see it in some of the emails I get. I mean, I don't take it personally. I'm living my best life. I'm just here on assignment, doing what I need to do. The day they tell me I don't need to do this anymore, I'll be very happy. But I see it when I'll share some information and someone will email me and be like, no, it's like this, it's like that. Or someone will, or I'll go on to YouTube and I'll listen to someone share some really powerful, message that they've gotten from the ancestors. And then you'll see all the different, all our minds. And if you think that we're supposed to be a group mind, beloveds, like that's where it is. We need to be united spiritually, even if we're scattered physically. If you look at it like that, then you'll really see, how divided we are. And this is a major problem. And it doesn't look like it's going to be solved within our lifetime. because people don't realize the importance of it. We're focusing on so many other things. Let's fight the enemy. Babylon is doing this. They want to genocidal us. They want to do this. And we're missing the point that this is happening because of what we're doing to ourselves. Let's take a short break. We'll be back.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to a special message from the Ancient One. So, why was why was Babylon able to invade Eden, invade Zion? And the thing is, we weren't just on the African continent, we were everywhere. But why were they able to invade the heart of us, which is, the mothership, which is where we are right now? Zion, Eden, Africa. Guys send me so many names. But you see about the division? We can't even agree on a name. Everyone's like, stop using Africa. You're helping the Babylon system. So I'm like, so how will the people who have never heard any of the things I'm saying understand what I'm saying? We're blessed and lucky, to have been able to see and to have been able to even start this awakening journey, beloveds. And so the reason they were able to, conquer us is because we were already divided. They didn't come and divide us up. We were already a divided people. Because we're seeded from so many nations and kingdoms. And that's one of the great lessons and challenges, in this realm, especially for leaders. The leaders and the kings and queens that come in here. That's one of the major things that they come to learn. How do you build a kingdom and get along? Live in harmony. Not only ruling humans, but live in harmony with other nations who have other ideas and other spiritual practices and different gods and all these things. How do you all live as one? And you see, Babylon, they divided and conquered as they were cloning all of us to look like them. And so now there's so much confusion because we're all like, Africa, let's unite, let's come together, Black people, we're all one thing, let's fight this system. And the thing is, we know that in our heart of hearts, that's not true. And that's why, beloveds, now the game has changed. The matrix is over, beloveds. We weren't able to unite while the matrix was still running. And so now it's about uniting yourself, removing the division within yourself, uniting your higher mind and your heart mind, uniting all of that. It's about you now removing the division in your life so that the ancestors and the ancient ones can trust you enough to allow you to walk through the golden gates into the golden age. You're not just going to get there because you're melanated. You're not just going to get there because you are from Africa. You're not just going to get there because you have a certain bloodline. You have to do the work of removing that divisive thinking in your mind. And a lot of the highly, spiritual beings, that's one of the things they've come. They were requested to come through certain bloodlines to help clean that bloodline, unite that bloodline. And that's why we're dealing with so much more. And I mean, that's a whole other show. We're dealing with so much more, beloveds, than just our life and this one lifetime. There's so many things that, when you conquer, child abuse in your family, you kind of close out that particular narrative. So there's so many things that we're cleaning out in our bloodlines because the unity as a collective, I pray every day that it will happen. And I really do feel there will be some kind of reformation or revival. But you see, beloveds, another thing we need to realize is now there's 100,000, some say 144,000 Christed ones, master beings, Jesus Christ, for the ones who are still in the religious psychosis. They're highly ascended beings. And yet in this world of duality, it's like you really have to quiet down that ego. So how are all these messiahs gonna come together and realize it's not about them, it's not about creating a following, but it's about changing the consciousness? And that's why a lot of the, what I call spiritual generals, are doing the major work, behind closed doors. They're doing the major cleanup. And that's why we're seeing so much confusion right now with everything that's happening, with the great experiment, why it just seems to be falling apart at the seams, like before it can even truly take off, although the damage has already been done. But beloveds, the reason the Mzungu, a far more inferior being, was able to invade us is because we had already divided ourselves and we were invading each other. And this was allowed to happen so that in this we could learn how, in the face of true adversity, we come together and we put our differences aside. But as I was saying before the break, you can see that many people haven't reached that level of spiritual maturity. And I see it every day because, beloveds, I'm a farmer now, you know? There's many, I'm spiritually, like, I'm in a priesthood, I'm doing my thing. So I'm as disconnected as possible from what's happening in this artificial world. But there's teachers that I'm getting information for that are moving my journey on. And then there's the assignment I've been given to teach that I am doing, that I am fulfilling. And so I'm not allowing anyone or anything in the Babylon system to pull me into any kind of debate or argument about this and that. Because I keep saying that time is over. And for now, it's time for us to level up spiritually and be spiritually mature, beloveds. And there's so many, there's so many things, like the whole arguing and everything. It's a deep spiritual subconscious thing, beloveds, where you always have to be right or you always have to share your opinion, etc., etc. And you see, the only way to beat the matrix is by us coming together as a unit. The way certain nations just, when they met this time, because we're at such a precious and significant crossroads. And there are ancient nations that just disappeared as a whole, like the Mayans. They just literally left everything as it was and moved to a higher world as we continue to argue and fuss and fight. So in these seasons and times, beloveds, recognize that unity is everything. And as I keep saying, do your bit for the collective, because we can talk unity, we can debate. And so many people have been saying Africa needs to unite, Africa needs to unite. But it doesn't happen. Because you have to question yourself first. Are you united here? Are you seeing with one mind, with one clear heart? Is your heart mind and your sexual mind and your intellectual, logical mind, are they all in unison? Are you operating on one accord? Have you settled the divisions within yourself? Because there's so much that is done to make us bipolar and, to just create that disunity. And as you become, you must become what you want to see in the world. So I think Gandhi said that, or whoever, But as you become more, as you unify yourself and remember yourself and put yourself back together, beloveds, that has such a massive ripple effect on the environment that you have. Because the unity of our people will be something like no one has ever seen. But right now, beloveds, it's the great clearing where before we come together, those that are too divided that would tear us apart when we did come together are being just, separation of the wheat from the chaff. And so it's up to you to heal your anger, to heal, because sometimes I'll see the comments and someone has written like, you Africans are Esau. I never even get these Esau, this and that. And you sold us to slavery. Like we're all, like everyone in Zion is all one thing, It's crazy. And so you have to take care of you now. That's what it is, and there's a great relief for those chosen ones who came to help the collective. Because now we've reached the point where we're giving the information. We're saying what needs to be said, but now it's up to you to do the necessary work. No one can do that for you. To get the keys that will unlock your own mind, to heal that anger, those negative narratives that have kept you bitter and angry. And it's not just the Atlantic slave trade that is an issue. It's even here amongst us. And the thing is, now the Mzungu has used that narrative to just hammer it home. Why is he always making slave movies year in and year out? It's because he benefits from that narrative, from keeping us all emotional about our past and angry at one another and confused. And then, and now we're all just mashed in together. And because we all wear I'm dressed in my lovely African outfits, but because we all dress in the Babylon system, you can't tell who are the betrayers and who are because anyway, this show has gone on for so long, but definitely let me know if you want me to get more into this. Until next time, tuko pamoja.